Okay.
Your time is over.
What is going on, my fellow nerds? Operator Otter here. Happy May the 4th to you, and in honor of May the 4th, we are going to be talking about the Palpatine Chain Lightning build, with which you saw the performance edit at the very beginning of this video. Now, quick disclaimer, is it better than Ball Lightning? No. Is it better than Blizzard? Single target, yes. AoE, you can make an argument, but I still think it actually might take the cake against Blizzard as well. I believe it's probably going to be the number 2 or number 3 build, but Ball Lightning definitely takes the cake when it comes to pit pushing. It just is a monster, and this is never going to be able to catch up with it. But I do believe that we can get the crits up to probably 30 or 50 trillion in the end game once we really optimize our gear, so there's a lot of room to grow, and it's going to be a very powerful build. It's a fan favorite. Everybody loves Chain Lightning. Lightning going everywhere. Ever since Diablo 2, it's always been something that's been a staple of the Sorc. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to be bouncing between the Mobalytics guide and the actual in-game to kind of keep ourselves an outline task and an order to talk about what's going on with the build. So without further ado, let's get started. So how does the build function? What's really going on? The short version is that the critical Chain Lightning is going to form crackling energy when we crit with Chain Lightning, and that is going to combine with Boundless Unstable Currents, which gives us a very big multiplier when we collect. If you can see right here, it gives us 15.6% damage per crackling energy. So when you pick up 100 of them, yes, that is a 1,560% multiplier. That is exactly how that's working. That's just how it goes. Now, when you have 85% crit hit chance, that crackling energy is going to spawn everywhere, and you're going to be picking it up, and that's essentially how you're going to be doing that. At the same time, when you are able to crit as much as you are with the Boundless Unstable Currents, it is going to combine with Aspect of Overwhelming Currents, which is going to give us 3% shock damage for 4 seconds on crit. And we are able to, even against a single target within those 4 seconds, get to about 160 stacks, which means if you take 160 and you multiply it by 3, yeah, that is a 480% damage multiplier. Now you're going to divide it by 2 because it's going to be half that duration. It's going to be 240%, but 240% damage multiplier in a ring or glove is absolutely wild, and that's essentially how this build is able to do as much damage as it is. Now we're going to be basically doing everything that we can to kind of support that idea, and there's going to be a lot of utility spells, but that's the core identity behind how the build is actually functioning. So from here, let's go over the strengths and weaknesses of the build and talk about. So from here, let's go ahead and talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the build. So first, it has strong single target damage. It has really, really good single target damage, and it's going to be for multiple reasons, but just don't know that. It does not give you carpal tunnel to play. That's beautiful. Sorcs are renowned for having to need like macros or something to play. No, you don't need that. It's very easy to play. It's very good. It's very mobile because we're going to be using the Overpower teleport tech. It has a great survivability because we have Tyraels and all sorts of damage reduction in the build. It's a very, very tanky build. The weaknesses, though, is that it has a ramp time. When you press your Unstable Currents, there's going to be about a 5-second period where you're going to feel like you're not doing damage, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're doing damage and you one-shot everything. That's just kind of how it works. It requires a lot of ranks and Unstable Currents to maintain the uptime, and if you don't have Unstable Currents online, you are not doing damage. That is just how the build functions. So those are the weaknesses of it. But what we are trying to do is essentially fix that. We are trying to increase our ramp time. We're trying to maintain the unstable currents uptime. We're trying to make sure that this never goes offline. That's essentially the entire thing. If we can do that, then the build does not have very many weaknesses. Now here you're going to see that we have 3 different variants of the build. We will be going over each of them today. We're going to be going over the mid-game Paragon 1 through 100 first, then we'll go over Esadora, then we'll go over the min-max version. So wherever you are in terms of Paragon and where you feel in gear, you can go ahead and open up the guide and basically look at the gear that's in it, and whichever one you feel, yep, that's the one I have, you can go ahead and follow that. You could skip to that in the YouTube video and just basically watch it from there. But we're going to go over each of these because I want you to be as educated as possible. I don't want to just give you the endgame version and call it good. I want you to be able to actually scaffold your way from the beginning when you just enter the endgame and actually build up to Chain Lightning of the endgame version if that's something that you want to do, rather than just like, well, how do I get there? So that's what we're going to do. So let's first start with the Paragon 1 through 100 variant. Now these pieces of gear, none of them are like crazy necessary, but if there was ones I was going to put very high expectations on, it's going to be your defensive. Your heavenly strength, your mage lord aspects are going to be very important. Sorcs are very squishy and you want to be able to survive, so making sure you have defense is going to be very important. When it comes to offensive, the elemental constellation and the accelerating with Armageddon are definitely going to be your 3 that are most important. Storm Splitters isn't really all that important, it's just whatever. Aspect of Voracious Rage isn't necessary, but man, does it solve all the problems you have. If you can get that, then it is going to be a very nice time when it comes to being able to level throughout. ACs isn't necessary, but it helps a lot with damage because it's going to give you a lot of critical hit chance, and we're a crit based build. And the Axial Conduits does give a lot of damage, but it's not necessary. But it is a very powerful multiplier. This the lowest roll possible. It's still 100% multiplier to Chain Lightning just because of the way that it works. It's very good. Now, when we move down, we're going to talk about our Tal Rasha set. So Tal Rasha's, the way it works is that when you damage an enemy, it's going to basically cast a mastery skill of the other 2 elements randomly, and when they hit, what that's going to do is going to give you a buff to the other form of damage. So if you're hitting with lightning, a blizzard or a meteor is going to come down, and now your cold or your fire damage is being buffed. And in order to get multiple stacks of this, you need to be able to actually cast all 3 of the elements. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have our lightning attack, which is going to be our Chain Lightning, and then we're going to be utilizing our Hydra to be the other form. So as we can see here, we come up, there's our lightning, we attack, there's our fire, we're going to keep attacking, and there's our double stack, there's our cold, and we're good to go from here. Like it's just gonna stack on itself from this point. We're good to go. We don't need to worry about anything. All 2 stacks and we're good to go. We're solid. So that's essentially how we're going to upkeep our Tal Rashas. Tal Rasha's gives a lot of resistances, and it just gives a lot of damage. It's just a very good set, so we're going to be doing that. Now, when you're doing this, if you don't know, you can re-roll these set pieces in to get ranks to shock skills, and that's what you want. You really want ranks to shock skills. Why is that? Well, ranks to shock skills is going to be the most important thing you can get because it's going to obviously modify not only your Chain Lightning, but it's also going to modify your unstable currents. Now, unstable currents, we need to upkeep it. It needs to stay up forever, right? So as I take points out of this, I want you to look at the lucky hit chance that's when I go down in ranks, as well as the cooldown and the actual time that it lasts. So as I take points out, you can see that the time is going down 42, 40.5, 39.5, and then you look at the lucky hit chance, it's going from 146, 142, 140. So as we're putting points into this ability, we are increasing how long it lasts, we are decreasing the cooldown, and we are increasing that lucky hit to form the crackling energy. Now, why is that important? Well, if we're able to increase the time by which the unstable currents is going to be active for, and we're able to increase the lucky hit chance, then this means that as we absorb this crackling energy, it's going to reduce the cooldown of the unstable currents by 0.63 seconds. So now it lasts longer, I have a higher chance to form these crackling energies, and now because I can get more crackling energies, that means I can actually reset the unstable currents when the ranks get high enough. But when the ranks aren't high enough, we have to basically depend on other things in order to fix that problem. We'll be talking about that. But that's one of the things that we're really going to be going for. Now, when it comes to the skill tree, I am going to assume that most of you know how to read, so we can go through this and go ahead and read it and basically see what's going down here. We will be talking about some cool little tricks and cool little things that we can do later, but just make sure to go ahead and read through this and you'll understand why we're choosing what we're doing. All right. When it comes to the Paragon board, we're really just trying to go for Static Surge as fast as possible, because that's going to give us the mana regeneration to actually upkeep being able to spam the Chain Lightnings, which is going to be very important. From here, the other ones that we're trying to get are going to be your Enchantment Master, your Frigid Fate, and your Ceaseless Conduit. For the other second glyph that you're going to be going for, it's going to be Eliminator, just at the beginning, just because it's a very strong multiplier right from the beginning, but we want to move away from it as we start leveling up. All right, so from here, what are we going to be doing for Mercenaries? We're going to be doing Subo and Alkin. Subo is going to give us that 25% critical hit chance, and then Alkin is going to give us damage reduction with Fields of Languish. Now, you can run right here if you want. That's up to you, but I do like Alkin. All right, how it plays, we already talked about it. Basically, look, you cast Unstable Currents, you're going to do damage. And when you use Hydra, that's what you're going to be using to basically get your stacks of Tal Rasha. You cast Chain Lightning, things die, right? Now, there's going to be some other cool tricks that we're going to talk about in terms of like how to actually set up the Overpower trick with the teleport. But when we're coming to the very beginning version of the build, that's how this functions. All right, so now we're going to move into the Esadora variant, which is still going to be a very powerful variant, and you'll actually be pretty surprised at how much damage you can pull with it. Is it going to be better than the Fractured Winterglass variant? No, but it is going to be able to upkeep our unstable currents. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the game, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. Now, when you first start playing this, you're probably only going to have a couple things that give ranks to your unstable currents. So right now, the unstable currents only last about 29 seconds, but what we want to do is you want to keep it up forever, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cast our unstable currents, and we're going to let it play out. And you can see that even though I collected like 80 crackling energies, I still have like a 30-second cooldown. That is not a good thing. All right, so we need to solve this issue. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's what we're going to put on Esadoras. All right, now by putting on Esadoras just like that, we're going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to go ahead and take a look and do the exact same thing. We're going to pop, and we're going to go right into the same thing. I'm going to stand right where I was the same way, and we're going to get it. All right, let's do it. And there we go. Much better, right? Much, much better. The cooldown isn't perfectly down, but it is way, way, way better, right? And the more ranks that you're going to be putting into your unstable currents, the much better it's going to come. So now that's basically what the power of Esadora is. And the other thing you'll probably notice is that the actual stacks of the unstable currents that we got was much higher. The reason being for this is that because Esadora's is allowing you to discharge the crackling energy really, really fast, this now allows Boundless to actually automatically pick up the crackling energy around you because you're not completely filled. When you have Boundless energy, you can run over crackling energy and you can go ahead and pick extra ones up, but you're not going to automatically pick them up the way that this is saying because you're completely filled. So this is a very nice little change. So that's essentially the whole like variant of Esadoras. That's essentially what you're doing. You're using Esadoras to reduce the cooldown of your unstable currents. This is where we're actually going to start really putting in Axial. You need Asus. You'll use Godslayer Crown as a placeholder for Harlequin because that's our glorious Lord and Savior, because Harlequin is just completely busted. You can read on here on basically what's going down and how we're doing that. We're still going to be looking for ranks of shock skills in our threefold. We are still running the exact same skill tree. Nothing's going to be changing there in the exact same way. When it comes to our Paragon board, now we're going to be moving into the actual Paragon board itself. We're just going to be placing our glyphs in spots and making sure that we're getting defensive stuff. We're just basically trying to turn on the glyphs at their like lowest value. The ones that we're going to be running are going to be our Destruction, because we're going to be critting now a lot, Exploit, Control, and our Charge. Now, when it comes to Control, you can, if you want to, if your crit rate is not good enough, you can go ahead and run Electrocute. Now, what is Electrocute? Electrocute is going to be this one, where you're going to increase the rare nodes. It'll give you 15% increased chance to enemies who are stunned, immobilized, or frozen. Everything will be stunned or frozen because of the Frozen Orb enhancement and the Lightning Spear stunning things. So this is going to be a good one if you're low on critical hit chance, but it's still not going to be nearly as good as actually running Control. Control just has a massive damage multiplier, and it's really, really strong. So we're kind of wanting to move up into that as we keep going. All right. Okay, from here, we're going into our min-max version. So what are the changes that are happening? we are now running Fractured Rune of Glass because we are going to have so many conjurations up with the fact that we're casting a core skill, which is going to be our Chain Lightning, and we're going to be casting conjurations with that. We're also going to be casting conjurations with the fact that we're actually having our Boundless Unstable Currents casting lightning spheres for us, so everything is just synergizing. We're going to have a lot of conjurations out. This is going to give us a lot of damage, a lot of mana per second, a lot of move speed, a lot of damage reduction. Like, everything just comes together, and it's a very, very good item. We're going to combine this as well with the Ring of Starless Skies because it gives every single stat we want. Attack speed, yes. Critical hit chance, lucky hit chance, everything. All of those stats are exactly what we want. It's a very powerful thing. It's going to make our Chain Lightning cheaper now, so we can just literally hold down the trigger and we're never going to run out of mana. It's very, very strong. Harlequin because damage reduction and +4 to all skills. Remember, 4 to all skills is to my Chain Lightning, but also to my Unstable Currents. Remember, more ranks in my Unstable Currents is a very, very powerful stat. We are now going to run Tyrael's Might because that's a lot of damage reduction. We don't need to run Raiment or anything like that here because we don't have an ability for it. For our pants, still Axial Conduit. This is where things are going to change. Okay, this is the min-max version. We are now going to run aspects of Shredding Blades in our boots. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the Asu's Heirloom as the 6th charm slot. That's how we're going to do that. Now, are there going to be better options? Probably in the future as I start experimenting with other options and stuff like that. Probably going to actually put the Asu's back on and then put like a more powerful damage multiplier here. We'll see what happens as things progress. But right now, this is the one I found is just working very well. The combination of the conjurations making things vulnerable on top of the Frozen Orb making things vulnerable. Everything just becomes vulnerable immediately. That's an instantaneous like 45% damage multiplier. So it's just something that I really like. It just makes the build feel very smooth right now. All right, anything else in terms of what's changing with the build? Not much. It's just now we've reached those stat lines where we have enough ranks into our Unstable Currents. We don't actually need any cooldown reduction at all. We are now like maxed out on our crit because we're going to be rolling that in our gear, and we're actually going to be hitting our 90.6% attack speed breakpoint. In case you don't know, that is the breakpoint for Chain Lightning. It's going to be 90.6% is what you're going to want to hit. The exact same skill tree. The Paragon now, we're just buffing up those specific nodes. Specifically, we want to focus on buffing up our Destruction and our Control Glyph, and then from there we want to buff up our Exploit for our Charged and our Elementalist. We don't need to do anything to them because they're not going to be modifying anything, which is fantastic. So we don't need to like really go out of our way to grab all the other nodes around them, and we can start grabbing all our defensive nodes and stuff like that. So that's how the Paragon Beard is basically working. Same mercenaries, same way it plays. Okay, cool. So that's going to be the endgame version. So now let's talk about some little cool tricks of the trade of basically how the build works so that we can start moving a little bit better and start playing a little bit better when it actually comes to dealing damage with the build. All right, so first things first, we're going to talk about the blazing teleport tech. So essentially the way that this works is that when you cast your Frost Hydra is going to hit the target, which is going to automatically cost meteors to drop from the sky. These meteors are going to generate Overpower for us. When they generate Overpower, our teleport can now consume those Overpowers to basically teleport wherever we want. That's essentially the combo. So when you cast your Frost Hydra, you'll see that I have my Overpower stacks, and now I can sit here and I can teleport all the way around. When I cast Hydra again, I can do it again and again. And this is how we are able to essentially keep our tech. So that's essentially how we're doing our teleport tech, which is going to be very good. All right. Now, when it comes to actually damaging a target and getting the most damage onto the target, you need to not hold down the trigger. In fact, what you want to do is you want to spin around the target. So as you go into your rotation, you actually are going to be doing stutter stepping, where you are walking around the target to pick up the crackling energies, as you can see right down here. You just want to keep walking around. And you want to keep casting your Hydra to make sure that it's still casting the other spells so that you are getting your spells. Here we go. We're going to go into our thing. We're going to just keep doing this. We just keep running in circles. That's how we get our trillion damage. There's our 2-point trillion. And that's essentially how you want to do it against a single target. You want to just keep spinning in circles around the target. You keep spinning in circles around the target, you're picking up the crackling energy. Is it going to be literally as fast as you just sitting there and holding the trigger? No, but because you are filled on your crackling energy, that means you're not picking up crackling energy as fast as you could, as if you were just literally walking around the target. And when you walk around a target and you pick up that crackling energy, it's going to scale your damage higher and higher and higher, which means it's just going to be a better net positive in terms of damage for you than just literally sitting there and just holding down the trigger. So those are basically like the two biggest things in terms of the build. Other than that, the build really just plays itself, guys. I don't know what to say. Like, just make sure you're getting ranks into your unstable currents by getting that into your pieces here, being your actual talisman. You can see, like, you know, ranks to shock skills, ranks to shock skills, ranks to shock skills, ranks to shock skills here. I need to try to get ranks to shock skills here. We're really just trying to get shock skills into that. That's going to elongate it. That's going to make it more powerful to actually generate the lightning. You want to be between 78.6 and 90.6% attack speed for your breakpoints, and the build will function very well for you, and you're gonna have a good time. So happy May the 4th. Have yourself a blast with the Chain Lightning build, and go out and do your things and watch things blow up. It's fun. It's good. It's a good time. See you guys in the next one.